Welcome to How I Made It Through. I'm Bernadette Thompson, and this is the very first episode of our 7th season. And I am welcoming today Sammie Swan, the amazing astrologer who is going to guide us through, a deeper understanding of astrology and give us some things about the lunar cycles, I think, is one of the topics that's going to come up. So, Sammie, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here again today and
I'm
talk
so
to you
excited you're
about
here.
this.
And what I want to do is I'm going to read your bio and just let people know a little bit about you. And then I just can't wait to get to dive in and share this time with you. You're such a special, not only an amazing astrologer, but such a special friend. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Oh.
So Sammie Swan, as a dedicated astrologer, she's passionate about unraveling the mysteries of the cosmos and sharing the profound insights into the human experience. Her work is rooted in the belief that astrology is a powerful tool for self-discovery and personal growth. She is a proud Level 3 graduate of Deborah Silverman's renowned applied astrology school, where astrology and psychology unite to inspire growth and transformation through honest, meaningful conversations. So, Sammie, I'm so glad to have you. You have been on How I Made It Through before, but I'm so glad to have you come back. I had a lot of questions that I didn't get to ask before. And so I thought it would be a good opportunity.
Yes.
And so one of my biggest questions or wanted to share with you is, I was really late to the astrology party. I didn't grow up with that interest in it, I literally didn't get interested in astrology until David passed away, which was 7 years ago. And so for me, I've had this amazing introduction, which you were a part of, and was one of the reasons why I wanted you to come and share more with us. But for those out there that maybe haven't been following their charts for a long time or really don't know how to understand what astrology is all about, I thought we could start there.
Yes. So I'll take you kind of basically in a nutshell, modern day astrology and how I use it in my practice is this roadmap that every individual has been given to understand your story and to understand not only like your personality and kind of the superficial things, but really what's driving the bus on the inside. Like, what's your inner world all about? What are you here to learn this lifetime? But if we take it and really how to become the leader that you've been waiting for your entire life, just by understanding yourself so deeply and knowing, okay, does this align with me? And just not sitting back and watching the movie of your life, but getting really involved with it, and taking every difficult part as kind of a point of, okay, how do I want my life to evolve? What should I do next? What feels most in alignment? But if we go way to the back of like ancient astrology, it was used to kind of know what was happening for kings and empires and survival and communication, and a way that the mystics and these astrologers in Mesopotamia would give information through the patterns of the stars and what it all meant for the collective of people. And then as time went on in the 1970s, you had Carl Jung, who he was a psychotherapist, and he loved using astrology just to give more depth and meaning to what the psyche was all about for each individual. And so he tapped back into all of this ancient wisdom and knowledge. And it was like a science back then. It still is. And I think, Bernadette, you have so much of that, like, the healer energy, but it's like you feel everything. You're feeling how anxious I am and nervous for our
Yeah.
podcast episode and you're on the other part of the country, like you are so deeply connected to that emotional feeling side of whatever is going on in your situation. And so when we get to understand that on a deeper level, it really helps us as an individual kind of change our lives and do the self therapy, the reparenting, whatever we need to do in order to feel our best. So,
Mm.
yeah.
So, well, what I love just to get started is that you're bringing in the ancient. And, as you know, I have ancestry, and ancestral healing is what is the path that I've been on. And so when I began to discover astrology, I realized that it had this ancient connection. And I have always felt that, which is what has drawn me to my ancestors. So it is fascinating that that's what you're bringing up, is the ancient part of it.
Yes. And I think what you're describing too is, I was just listening to another astrologer yesterday, and she talked all about the myths of the zodiac and how all of these planets she gave the story behind all of them. So like, I'll bring us into current time a little bit. Like right now in our collective, the planet Mars is such a big key player. And the Mars, wherever it is in your birth chart, it's individually, this is like where the war is. Like, especially March has been, it's a little bit of a dumpster fire month.
Mhm.
To be completely honest, it's intense.
Mhm.
And so, where is this planet Mars, which is so where it is right now in the sky, has everything to do with like deep feeling and emotion that wants to take action in some way and
Mhm.
kind of step up and initiate in some way. But it's through the feeling of that, all about like, oh, what drives how we feel on an everyday basis,
Mhm.
that this planet Mars is coming to the surface. And I don't know exactly where I even started with that first sentence when I
Yeah.
got so
Yeah.
excited to explain Mars, but
Yeah.
basically, like, Caroline Casey, who I was listening to, it came back to me. She was saying that whatever we personally have an interest in, which like for me, I've always loved brainiac stuff. So like when I started learning about astrology, I was like, oh, this is great because it's like so based in logic and like you can get spiritual with it and really connect with people on an extremely deep level. But there's language to it. And I'm kind of combining that whole like, oh, let's make sure we feel good and let me make sure you're nurtured during this whole process too, because this is people's lives that we're talking about.
Mhm.
And that is, Caroline Casey was saying, whatever you have this deep interest in, take the ancient wisdom of that and bring it to the people of modern day so they never forget where they came from.
Oh.
And I
Mhm.
think the gift that you have, Bernadette, because
Mhm.
you're so, I mean, you can communicate like no one's business and you're so good at getting information out there, but the feeling of what's driving you, that moon, that you have, your moon is your emotional body. It has everything to do with bringing back the things that people can easily forget by truly going back in time, connecting with people who aren't even here in the physical realm anymore. I mean, it's literally what you're doing for your business.
Yeah.
Like that's what your moon is all about. And what a gift you have to be the healer who's actually kind of guiding people back to this ancient knowledge of, yeah, it's not all about the 3D realm and physically,
Right.
externally, what's happening to us. Like there is a whole other experience to life that has to do with actually death as well.
Yeah. 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 It's Sammie, that's amazing. Um, it's so true. Uh one of the reasons why I wanted to have you come back on is, it's also this connection as what I went through, which was the grief and trauma of David's passing and being his addiction and all of that. And, how how we can use this ancient information, which seems so crazy, but I'm amazed at how much it's changed me.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting too, because just when you start to die, we're not taught, there isn't a class when we're kids that's all about how to connect to your ancestors after they've passed,
Mhm.
or how to truly offer community care or be with someone when they are going through such a crisis,
Mhm.
and what that looks like. Like, we all have gifts, and there's certain things you're doing it professionally now, and you're really debuting that to the world, and like, oh my gosh, what a blessing. And I think that's part of David's gift. What he gave you too was remembering and tapping back into this.
Mhm.
But these skills, gifts, tools that each person has, and they're very different. Once we are actually reintroduced to something that has, like, it's left our modern day school curriculum, but like, we all have a personal roadmap and a star chart going on. And like, what does that wisdom from the stars, the stuff that was started in ancient Mesopotamia that traveled all over the world? I mean, there's like a whole Indian astrology system, a whole Chinese astrology system. Like, people back then, 300 BC, they were looking to the stars. They had no electricity. They were just tapping into nature around them, and what could give logic and meaning and a way to pass down knowledge generation to generation,
Mhm.
that I think just school now doesn't tap on those things like it. And this is just like, you are bringing that primal knowledge and that
Mhm.
all through what you do too. It's like a psychic connection,
Mhm.
mediumship going on.
Mhm. And
So
I think spirit wants us um, to remember those things and
mhm,
to help us navigate this world where where um, there's so much noise, and that to remember that we are all connected, and that we do come from something sacred and divine, and so it is what's wonderful about this is giving us this insight into the past through the stars. I mean, I
mhm.
have always loved, the pyramids, that Orion's belt, and things like that.
Yes.
So yeah, keep going.
Yeah, I think, what comes to mind is just how the evolution of astrology from back then to right now, what's happened is because of Carl Jung too. It's become very therapeutic,
Mm-hmm.
to where you really get an opportunity to like stop time when you look at your astrology chart. And when you start to dive into all these different layers of you, and like, um, what an opportunity, especially right now in
Mm-hmm.
2025, to where we have an option to kind of take things in our own individual way and impact someone else around us in a very good, uplifting, supportive, and positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Because now that, we all know that there's billions of us here, and like you said, like, we're all, what we're understanding from the ancient wisdom in 2025 now is that we are all connected.
Mm-hmm.
You felt how anxious I was, and
Yeah.
I didn't, I hadn't even texted you back yet, but I woke up so nervous. And we can impact one another, and it can be contagious of like, what do we really want the world to look like, and what's my part in that? Like, how can
Mm-hmm.
I be the best version of myself but still be super gentle with
Mm-hmm.
self, and take care of myself even when things are really difficult?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so back in the day, I'll kind of go back to my brief history of astrology. This was all about like, is there going to be a war coming up? Where is Mars in the sky?
Mm-hmm.
And it was these ancient Babylonian priests who would give the leaders this knowledge. Um, you know, then it turns into the actual science of this. So how can we break this down? So they divided the sky in 12 different sections, and they used myths and stories to pass down the information of this science of this is what each of the planets means, this is what each section in the sky is all about. And so what I practice now is tropical Western modern astrology. And I really like to weave in kind of leadership coaching tools.
Mhm.
So each person can, again, just stand up and be the leader that they are supposed to be and really do their birth chart, like do the work, and don't just let it be kind of an escape of, okay, this is what my birth chart is all about. It's like, no, get involved. Let's live out what's your kingdom going to look like, especially your inner kingdom, if we connect
Mhm.
this back to the ancient ways. So it's really evolved from predicting national and kingdom crises and the fall of the empires to now a personal horoscope of deep therapy, like, and
Mhm.
deep learning how to love yourself, really.
Mhm. Yeah, that's amazing. I'm so glad you gave me that bit of history,
Oh, good.
because it is true. Like, why would they? I mean, we knew they needed the stars for many things, certainly to, which, directions and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't think about it. And for them to say, okay, let's separate this into 12 different segments is kind of amazing. So,
Yes.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So how did we get to where we are today? So this is how where we are today, kind of.
Yeah. And there's still, there's all different kinds of astrologers too. Like
Mhm.
Caroline Casey, who she's really, she has a fantastic book on, you can get it online or do Audible is what I love. But um, her book is called Working with the Gods. And so she takes it right all the way back to ancient astrology, which is, the planets. She's going to go through all the planets and talk about how they were symbols of these different forces and gods in our life and how to actually work with them and not just be a passive
Mhm.
passenger in your life story. And so you have, she would be like a visionary activist astrologer, and she's very much so about looking long term of how you want to do the work with all this energy and really show up for yourself. You have Deborah Silverman, who I learned from, and she took everything very Jungian. Like, she took everything that she learned as from being a psychotherapist and applied that to how to really reframe and help people heal, by just being there for them exactly where they're at and not judging them and being super entertaining at the same time. Um,
Mhm.
you have you have Gretchen Heidel, like who you're talking about, and she is very detailed and goes very deep into everything and is so much about like the personal connection. I have not even had a reading with her, but I've heard wonderful things about her. And so she's going to give you like an astrology experience that you're never going to forget, because it's going to be so intimate and like so you'll just understand yourself and get that great base knowledge and want to keep going back for more. You have people who do executive coaching with astrology, and they're focusing strictly on professionals. And then you have people like Adam Ellenboss. He has a great YouTube channel where he's taking Hellenistic astrology, so that's ancient astrology, but then just giving you all the knowledge of, he's going into like, this is what's happening in our world right now, and
Mhm.
here's where the planets are. And so there's all different roads where you can take your astrology journey, but I think just first getting your chart, which everyone can get it online for free. We'll go over that in a minute here, but like understanding your chart and applying it to, oh, how would the ancient mystics have looked at my birth chart? Where were all the planets in the heavens when I took my first breath?
Mhm.
And so once you start to build this self curiosity, all you're doing is starting to build a really positive and great relationship with yourself. And so
Mm.
I think that's where we can now individually kind of shape and change the world, to really be participants with each dot on this collective web of consciousness,
Yeah.
because we're all going to light each other up in different ways, especially if we practice being self-aware. And
Well,
so, yeah.
Well, it's just making me think of this self-awareness. When you do discover what your chart is, I'm a Libra, so balance has always been, just trying to, and then I have, Pisces moon and Pisces rising.
Mhm.
And I'm so steeped in the spiritual and that's Pisces, that's
Yeah.
where. And so, but I never knew, I never understood that when I discovered that, I was like, oh, all this makes sense. So yeah, it's,
Yes.
so I think that's the magic of what happens when somebody discovers it.
And especially like just thinking about everything you just said too. Libra is very that's an air sign that's very much about like code, like co with someone, doing things in the physical realm with people. It's all about, yeah, balancing those scales. What's fair? Are
Mhm.
my needs, am I expressing my own needs while I'm also pleasing someone else's needs? Because I don't even have to try. Your Libra sun says, I just want to please everyone else because then I'll feel okay.
Yep.
And so think of that. That's literally every single day on a 3D level. Your sun, which is your ego and your identity, is all about the other. But then you have this other part of you to where it's so sensitive and like feeling good when pleasing the other, but still something's not feeling just right if you're not kind of acknowledging or tapping into how you're feeling at the same time.
Mhm.
But then we don't have classes growing up that's all about, okay, this is how we are spiritual beings in a very fast paced, chaotic world. And
Right.
this is what our job is as a Pisces rising and a Pisces moon in such a what could be considered really superficial, or like just got to cross another thing off the list and keep going. And do I have time to even feel how I'm feeling? So I think with you being double Pisces, it must have felt, I wonder, difficult when you were growing up with feeling so much of like, were
Mhm.
you able to get that alone time to be able to relax and come back into taking care of your nervous system before doing things with other people again?
Yeah, no, I grew up in a family of 8 children.
Oh my
So
gosh, yes.
so it was a lot of, so I grew up into chaos just in the fact that there were so many, there were 10 beings in the house, so it was, so yeah, it is, but it's fascinating to discover it later. And I agree. I wish that we could bring this into explain it to people in their younger years to understand who they are, because it really helped me understand and guided me towards what I'm doing. You know.
Yeah, and so what age do you think you were when coming out of the chaos of that's a huge family, you're always taking care of other people around you. It's not quiet for you to come back to your nervous system and like come back to,
Yeah.
the unseen and connecting with those who have passed on. What age do you think it was? I'm really curious where you felt the shift into being like, okay, this is how I take care of my inner worlds, and I'm going to do this. What was the big thing that shifted that?
Oh, full, like taking care of myself and thinking full blown adult. Full blown,
Okay.
literally, maybe when I was, late teens and early 20s, that
Yeah.
brief period when we kind of get to be ourselves, we're out of the house and we haven't, stepped into maybe marriage or children or, but then, there's the, okay, what am I going to do? And what kind of time of our lives. But then, literally, I'm still learning, Sammie.
Well, I
It's,
think that's the most fun part, is that we don't get to stop learning, because we're
yeah.
all here in this game of life to do the work of what our soul wanted us to learn this lifetime.
Yeah. And it was a reading with you that really gave me so much information, and it was it was just something that kind of opened, even though I had gone to Gretchen, there's just still a lot of chaos. And for anybody out there that knows, when we're trying to make through our lives and all the things that are happening, we try and take the bits and pieces that people are giving us. But it's, again, that's why having you come on today to explain a little bit more about how, how we move through all this. And then, we've talked about like a moon rising and or my moon sign and my rising sign,
Yep.
all of those things play into it. And I get that I was born in the Libra, like that slice at when but it's the rising parts that are kind of crazy too. I
Yes.
don't understand as well.
Well, so it's hard. I mean, that's why people go weekly to their astrologer, because there's, depending on how deep you want to get and like how fast you want that to go, there are, it's supposed to be a never ending lifelong study. I mean, there's so many different aspects to dive into, but I mean, that's the gift too, because it just gives us more information as we're going on in this whole life cycle. And it's interesting, the dates, like of how old you were, like you stepped away from family and now you're coming back to yourself. And like, maybe it's, oh, now I can let myself cry as a
Mhm,
Pisces moon. And like, it's,
mhm.
we can go dark and it's okay. And I'm supposed to feel all these things. And what is the journey of what these emotions take me on? And how can I be there for other people who I know are not going to feel comfortable dealing with these certain human things?
Yeah.
Um, and how can you really show up to be the healer for them? Because
Hmm.
that's what you're supposed to be. So
Yeah.
what you've done, so I'm talking about your Pisces moon right now. What you've done is taken your inner worlds. Your moon sign for everyone is your emotional body, and it's your emotional needs.
Mm.
And I have all 12 of them here, and I'll give some call to actions for each person's moon sign. But for your Pisces moon, if you weren't taking the time, and I bet something clicked even more when you were like in your early 30s, and then even more again in your late 30s, because
Yeah.
then like late 30s is like emotional maturing, and really things have changed, like your whole perspective. And then, what does this look like as a true wisdom giver who's you're in the healing circle of helping people go back to some of the most painful times?
Yeah. You were at saying that early 30s. I just want to throw this in there.
Yeah.
I lost a friend who we were preschool moms together, and she passed away. And when her daughter was 7 years old and her
Oh,
son was 4. So it was a really, and she came to me. I was deeply in grief and not understanding. We had kind of separated. Our girls had gone to different schools for
mhm.
kindergarten, and so. And when she passed, I had this tremendous guilt that I hadn't. that, that our friendship had kind of gone away. But I just was in shock that these two little babies, didn't have a mom now. And she came to me, and I found a picture of her. It's too long a story to go into, but I found a picture of her I didn't know I had. And in that moment, her spirit came into me. And I felt her say to me, I'm okay, you're okay, we're okay. And at that moment, I was no longer afraid of dying because I knew Patrice was over there. And so that was a moment, then I went back into, that awakened me to the point of I wanted to learn more, but still, I've got three little kids myself, and, back into living life. But so, yes, that was an amazing opening for me.
So you really channeled a spirit, and that's what you're doing now. And even I bet when people meet with you, I bet it helps them to feel released from the shackles of fear of dying, because
Mhm.
we're programmed as human beings
Yeah.
to be terrified because we want to stay alive. But
Mhm.
now it's, you offer this bridge into the other world that helps them feel so comforted. I just
Mhm.
know the energy that you bring. You just make people feel so comforted
Mhm.
when they're releasing their fear. And that's honestly what Pisces moons are all about. The gift is that you can hold someone and
Yeah.
make them feel so felt because you're feeling everything that they go through, that you know exactly what to do and how to help them heal on this process.
Well, what the other thing is, and this is where it connects back to the astrology, is
Yeah.
as I opened up and learned to understand that I was a spiritual being,
Mhm.
then this idea of the universe and the stars, I became much more interested because I realized that our existence is not only this 3D world, this third rock from the sun.
Mhm.
And that's where the expansive interest in how are we connected came about, and opened me, somebody who was brought up in the Catholic tradition and very narrow, bumpers very close in,
Yeah.
that this, Patrice's passing was really one of the big things that opened me up to saying, let's look at things, differently.
Oh my gosh, yes. And there, have you ever heard of Dolores Cannon? I can't
Yes.
remember. Okay, yes. I feel, she said something really interesting in I think it was one of her talks I was listening to, but she said how where all the planets were. She was talking to, this was during one of her hypnosis sessions, and someone's soul was communicating with her of why when they were in deep hypnosis and or that trance-like state, and this person's soul was telling them that where the planets are at the moment where you take your first breath help to make sure that on the physical 3D realm, you will be given situations, external scenarios, really internal stuff that you're dealing with. And the planets will make sure they will communicate with your psyche to make sure that you are really doing the work this time around. And I was brought up as Catholic as well. I went to Catholic school. And so it's amazing to really look at the infinite possibilities. And I actually feel, whenever I am just a very spiritual person. And, even in the Catholic Church, when I was a practicing Catholic, I was pretty into it, like I did always pray, and like I always believed and knew that there are things
Mhm.
happening that we cannot see. And so now having tools from nature, planets and where the degrees are and everything, and it's pretty scientific to be able to connect that spiritually and understand what other people were here to learn this lifetime and have more understanding about them, but then really dive into self. I think that is that's really standing up and doing the work of being a spiritual being,
Mm.
because you have to keep yourself in check and practice being a good person.
Yeah. You know, I think when we're able to take these leaps and allow ourselves to at least investigate, even if, to learn about the spiritual um, methodologies or whatever, like astrology and so, and other things that we truly uh, give ourselves open to an awakening as we just allow ourselves. We're the 3D world just draws us in, and it's so low, energy wise compared to what our energy is, let's say, on the other side. But that's why it's fascinating to just learn. And for me to think that I didn't learn about this till 7 years ago was really, as I had said before we came on, before we started taping, I had, I'd never done a natal chart. I didn't have any of that. I, like in the drugstore, or I had the little Libra book,
Yeah.
which didn't give me a lot of information. But yeah, but it is, yeah.
But
It's just,
deep down, that was your soul. So everyone's soul is your rising sign. It's how your soul wants to experience this life. And your Pisces rising. So there was your soul in that moment when you were in the drugstore and you saw that Libra book and you're like, oh, I wonder, what's this
yeah.
all about? Your soul was going to make sure when the time was right. And it
No.
all makes sense when astrology came into your life looking back, doesn't it?
Yes, it completely did. It's a longer conversation, but yes, yes.
Yes.
Well, tell me more about, you were saying that you had for moon sign, I mean, uh, for everybody that you had
Oh,
had.
yeah. Okay. So, well, let me go into just a quick tutorial of how everyone is going to figure out what their moon sign is.
Mhm.
Um, it's very easy. So, the first thing is that you need to know your birthday, which everyone should know that. But then you need to know the exact location of where you were born. So, like the town that the hospital was in, you'll need town and city, and then whatever country. And then the most challenging part can sometimes be finding your exact time of birth. So if you don't have it on your birth certificate, your exact time of birth, you can call the town you were born in or the hospital. They usually have it. Now, there's still other ways to find out, um, you know, what what your moon sign is, but even if you just know to start out with your birth date and the town and state or country that you were born in, you'll know where the moon was that day. So don't stress too much about not having your exact time of birth. But there is a free astrology software where you just go on Google or your computer or your phone and just go to a website called astro.com, astro.com, and you'll just create a free visitor account, a guest account, unless you want to start saving all your friends and family's birth information as well, because you will be curious and you'll know a lot about how their moods and inner worlds work, especially when times are stressful. But you just plug in your birth information and press submit, and it will pull up your
Yeah.
natal chart. And so I love the moon so much because, again, if you really want to understand how to connect and be there for someone and care for them, if you understand what they're like when they feel reactive or vulnerable or need to be held, or you're wondering what their reaction system is like, well, how their nervous system is going to tick, essentially, and like what that relationship or connection will feel like, look to their moon sign. But
Mhm.
most importantly, because we always bring it back to self, figure out what your moon sign is, everybody who's listening, and then you can understand yourself on a different level. So everyone can figure out their moon sign from there. I'm going to go through I really love giving people like, try this. Like, I'm an earth person. I have half of my planets in the element of earth. So it's always like, here's a task you can do to actually embody this. So I'm going to give each moon sign, we'll go through all 12, um, give you like 2 to 3 actionable cues of what you can do. So we'll start with Aries moon. Everything, and I have my moon in Aries, which it's a fire sign, and it's the fighter out of all the fire signs. So if you're an Aries moon, you need to be expressing energy through your body some way, because when that planet Mars is related to Aries. It's like it wants to get up and initiate something. So I was super nervous for my podcast appearance today with Bernadette. So what I did is, after lunch, I hopped on the exercise bike and I moved my body for 15 minutes, because I knew that energy that was stirring up inside of me and that nervousness, I needed to actually physically express it. So if you're an Aries moon, like, anger is going to be an emotion that comes up, and usually is a way for somebody to understand that they're triggered emotionally, or their inner world is getting brought up to the surface. Um, don't suppress the anger, or the frustration. Like, actually work with it. Like, scream into a pillow, write down something angry, and then set it on fire in the sink, or allow yourself to throw a little temper tantrum, and don't be so hard on yourself to try and hold back. Um, know where you should direct that get up and go energy, that, like, let's make something happen, go for a run, dance, apply your drive somewhere. The feeling of your story as an Aries moon is going to be like, okay, we need to do something. We need to take charge. Let's try something new. So, shout out to all my Aries moon people. It's a fire sign, so it's hot. Now, Taurus moon. So, Taurians are so earthy, and these are like when I think of a person with a Taurus moon, like, they're going to have blankets all around them when they need to get um, cozy. Because if you're a Taurus moon and you feel like, oh my gosh, the first thing I do is grab a bunch of snacks and like start eating and binging if I'm feeling stressed, you know that you need to take care of your inner world and your emotional body, because you're trying to ground by using food externally. And so things with Taurus moons are very like creating grounded spaces, like even having a nice fuzzy rug underneath your feet. So you're always physically having some sensation, bringing it back to the body, rather than just feeling stuck and frustrated and stubborn. It's very much so about using your hands. So cooking food. Do I need to eat a nice nourishing meal and really enjoy every single bite when I'm feeling upset as a Taurus moon? These are just the people with a Taurus moon who, you go to someone's house and they pick up the guitar and they start just playing and singing a song to all the people around them. Like, that is cozy energy, if you ask me. Then we move to Gemini. Gemini is all about, like, it's what we're doing right now. We're conversing and we're sharing information with one another. So, like, if you're a Gemini moon and you feel reactive or triggered, or like emotionally something is off, you need to talk and book a therapy session. And it's going to be so much about like getting the air to the surface and talking it out and journaling and curiosity. Like, okay, let's put 3 different things on the list and like do them throughout the day. So I'm changing my perspective, even if it's for bursts of 5 minutes at a time. It's like, don't get stuck in one thing. Just keep it moving, and make sure you're having fun, and like have a bunch of colored markers with you and draw a little picture for 3 minutes, like change it up. Then we go into Cancer moon. Now, this is where the moon loves to be in Cancer, because Cancer is, out of all the zodiac signs, the most, it loves to be vulnerable, and it loves to feel every single emotion and really nurture yourself through that too, even though that can be really hard for a Cancer moon. So this is nurture is the key word for Cancer moon. Take care of yourself, nurture yourself like you would a newborn baby.
Mm,
Because when we get stuck in those emotional times in our life, especially in adulthood too, it can be like, I mean, I can even think of a time this past week, I was like, God, I wish I had my mom here and she
mhm.
could just like hold me, even
Yeah,
though I'm in my 30s. It's like
yeah.
that motherly nurturing is something that is so primal and ancient that Cancer moons can go into so deeply. And Cancer moons are the people where they walk in the room and you feel better already, because they have that mom caretaker sort of energy, and they
Mhm,
know exactly, even if you have a Cancer moon and you haven't experienced it yet, deep down, like, Cancer moons know exactly what they need to do to create a safe space and to hold that space for themselves and for other people.
mhm.
So you'll find Cancer moons a lot in their bed with their animals, because that's a
We
really
are we are starting to run out of time, so let's do them a
oh,
little.
okay. Leo moon, fire sign, so I can start going quicker here. Celebrate small wins and remind yourself of why you matter. Um, then everything is about worth for a Leo moon. Like, how can I be creative and dance and paint and show off all my things to the world? Honor yourself. Let yourself shine as a Leo moon. Virgo moon. Virgo moons can be so hard on themselves and feel so critical. So, and like everything will need to be perfect, especially when they're feeling off balance or in crisis. It's like, oh my gosh, the perfectionist really comes out. So, this is really so much about having a daily checklist
Mm,
and allowing yourself to cross things off the list so your emotional body can calm down. Then we've got always, Virgos need to really just take care of their physical body and like keep
mm,
health top of mind. That helps them emotionally feel more in control. Libra moons, this is an air signs and everything having to do with beauty. So, like having the beautiful picture behind you and getting the perfect color for your wardrobe that day, and spending time with people. Libra is so about the other, like we kind of talked about before. So, who do you need to be by in order to feel heard and like your needs are being met, but you're also meeting someone else's needs at the same time? Who's good company?
mhm,
Then we've got Scorpio moon. We're in the final stretch here. Scorpio moons go deep and intense into emotions. So this is needing privacy and being, setting up spaces for yourself where you can get really deep and really vulnerable and know that your secrets are safe. This is why Scorpio moons make amazing therapists, because they know how intense and deep you need to go. And then really being able to spend that time alone to just like reconnect to yourself and who you are as a person. Then we've got Sagittarius moon. This is everything about fun and adventure and exploring new places. These are the travelers. If you have a Sagittarius moon and you have not gone on vacation yet, this year, or even like in the past 2 months, book a vacation, even if it's for 24 hours. Switch up what your um, surroundings are, and you'll feel better and more balanced. And fun needs to be a top priority for Sag moons. Capricorn moon is all about structure and like, let's get down to business. We don't even have time for the emotional thing to talk about. So if you're a Capricorn moon, schedule some time. Again, therapy is great because you can schedule 1 hour once a week, go to therapy. You did a good job by taking care of your emotional body, but then you can go back to all your earthly duties and creating an amazing business for yourself and doing all that fun Capricorn stuff, building your legacy. Aquarius moon, here's our last 2 moons. Aquarius moon, these people need to detach and get away from all the noise and get away from the emotional charge and that like electricity that can be in really stressful situations, and just completely detach and even maybe dissociate a little bit, play a video game, and then come back and revisit, because it can really kind of overload the system when you get really stressed out. So this is allowing yourself to feel without putting too much pressure on yourself, because you're going to have to detach in order to get your mindset right after your emotions have been thrown off. Pisces moon, we've talked about this a bit today. This is Bernadette. So much can be engaged in not only spiritual stuff, but things that take you into another dream world. So like classical music, put headphones on and like listen to instrumental or classical music where you can just close your eyes and truly like sway back and forth and feel like you can escape into the dream realm, because that's something that recharges your emotional body. Do you feel that?
I do. You know, it's funny. I'm writing a book and I've been putting music on to bring me into that. I've been using a lot of like yoga music to bring me into that space where I can, because writing is a very, it kind of comes through you.
Yes.
So yeah, that music is definitely a way to settle me down when things are, when I'm feeling anxious. I'll do that.
Yeah. And it's last thing I want to say about if anyone has a Pisces moon, it's really about creating, because what you've just described is like, that's your writing ritual. Like you're tuning into music now and allowing that to move the energy through your body. So it's creating any sort of ritual thing that you can do repetitively each time you do that practice, that's connected to the physical realm, but also stepping into the other realms as well.
Yeah. Sammie, this is amazing. I wish we could go on. I mean, we could, but we'll save it. We'll save it for another time. There's just so much that somebody can learn from astrology, and to really go to understand that it's not just checking once in a while, but really understanding how you're moving through the year, through through space, through the universe. How can somebody book some time with you or just learn more about you?
Yeah. So my website is firebirdastrology.com. And I actually just recently published a whole blog post where I talk even more about each moon sign. And I broke it down into how it shows up when you're a little kid, how it shows up in your adolescence. And then after you hit that emotional maturity peak, like after your big astrological coming of age in your 30s, and what it shows up as when you're really stepping into doing the work with your moon sign. So if you go on my website, you can see how to book a one-on-one reading with me. And then also check out that blog post, because just figure out what your moon sign is and check out the blog post and figure out what you need to do to take care of yourself today.
I'm so grateful for our time together.
Me too.
I really look forward. First of all, I hope that people do go to your website, because, having had a reading from a Sammie, I know how much more open and understanding that I have about, who I am. And so just thank you so much. And I look forward to having you come back.
Yes, thank you.